Hi, folks. Welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch a beautiful day here in the Ozarks. For the first week of August, you cannot complain about this. It is dry. We could use some moisture. It's warming up, but it is not too warm. It is not to the point that it's just miserable to be outside. The sun's out, and can't really complain for this time of the year with this weather, but I'm sure that'll change. We've had false fall for the last week or so, and everyone thought they were going to have to get out their sweatshirts and clean out their chimney flues and stuff, but summer's still here. I talk about this subject every now and then, and some people get tired of it because they think it's never going to happen, and you may be right. If you're one of them, you may be right. But things are increasing, I think, fairly dramatically, and I'm not trying to make this something that it's not, but the conflict, or the building conflict, between Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, and the West is building. And the big deal is that I think from Russia's perspective is they're tired of being disrespected. They know that they're capable of being a world leader, easily a regional leader, and they gave up. Whether it was right or wrong, it's irrelevant at this point for this argument, but they feel that they gave up too much land when the Soviet Union fell, and they want it back. And so they're wanting to establish themselves as a very prominent leader in the world. They control a lot of oil, a lot of gold, and they do produce a lot of rare earth minerals. And so that's their thing. China is ready to take the crown as the top dog. They want to lead the world. They believe they're capable of it. They believe their production is capable of it, and they're ready to do that. And then North Korea and Iran, they're just, I think, sick and tired of America being the top dog and them being, kind of beat down, whatever. I don't know. But I think that the day of determining who is the next leader of the world order is coming sooner than we think. And there's a lot of little things going on and some big things going on that indicate that. And of course, things have happened over the last several weeks and months and last few years to kind of point that direction, that is building. And I think what we're seeing on the American side of things, especially American, not just Western, but especially American, is we're trying to keep the people distracted away from this. Don't pay attention to this. It'll be all right. America's the big dog. America can take care of itself. We can try diplomacy and trade and economics to get all this fixed. But in the end, if we have to fight them in a war, we'll be fine. But the facts and the numbers don't back that up. And I think they don't want the American people, both sides, liberals and, conservatives, the left and right, they don't want the American people to know the truth that we've gotten so big and we've gotten a little fat and lazy, literally and figuratively, and we haven't kept up. I mean, we've kept up in a lot of technology, certainly, but not kept up in a way that we could hold the position as the world leader. And so there's been some things coming out just today to indicate that challenge is probably a lot sooner than we think. And that's going to dramatically change things. Most people believe if a big world war of this nature starts, it's going to be a bloody one. It's going to be big and bloody and pretty devastating, and it easily could become nuclear. I mean, it's possible. I know Americans and American ideology is that no one survives and no one wins a nuclear war, which is funny because the only nuclear war that's ever existed was when we bombed Japan, and people survived that, and someone won that war. But the Russians and the Chinese don't quite see things that way. So there's that. But there's just a lot of little things that are happening that indicate that, well, they're sick and tired of it, and they're not backing down to what Trump has kind of laid down. Trump came in kind of this bluff, whether it was real or not, and this is what we're going to do, and everyone's going to comply because you respect me because I'm Trump, and you respect the office of the United States president because we're the biggest and baddest and best. And I think these guys are like, not anymore. We don't care. Russia, and I mentioned this a couple of days ago, but Russia has walked away from the very last treaty agreement with the United States when it comes to controlling nuclear weapons. They've walked away from it, and now they say they're free to produce short to medium range, intermediate range nuclear missiles anytime they want. In fact, the Kremlin today said that that Russia will no longer restrain itself from the development, the production, the testing, and the usage of its weapons. They're not going to do that, and so it's building there. Russia's showing that they're not interested in listening to the United States. They're not listening to this day coming up this Friday of when they're supposed to come to a peace treaty or a ceasefire. They're not interested in it. They're selling their oil to anyone that'll buy it, and several nations are still buying it. And they say that they're going to increase everything, production, usage, all of it. China's doing the same thing. China has made it pretty much publicly known that they intend on continuing to buy Russian oil in large amounts. In fact, today there's talk of a new agreement to purchase a bunch more, and also purchase certain rare earth minerals that Russia produces. And so China has, again, they're not trying to hide this. They're being pretty open about this. China has also, it's been openly known, discovered, whatever, that they are supplying Iran with some pretty sophisticated missile systems that they have. This is interesting because Israeli news has been trying to say that China is stepping away from its allegiance with Iran and trying to build an allegiance with Israel. I think this is just part of the game that China plays. Iran has stuff that China wants. Iran is a big producer of oil, and China buys a lot of Iran's oil and gas. Israel doesn't really produce a lot of that kind of stuff, and it's unlikely that China is going to step away from its ally with allegiance with Iran. And there's no real indication of that. Just because certain Chinese diplomats have had conversations with Israel does not mean that they're going to step away from Iran. And so that's also being talked about. India is an interesting one. India has been a trading partner and considered an ally of the United States for quite a while. And Pakistan has been considered an ally of Russia. But just recently, the Trump administration has really thumbed its nose at India, said some insulting things, and threatened to put major tariffs on India, which they have. They've now upped it to 50%, and then tried to work out a trade agreement with Pakistan and brag about that. And I could be completely wrong on this, but Pakistan has a long history of being an ally of China. And so I think that us trying to align with Pakistan in trade is going to bite us in the back. I think when push comes to shove, Pakistan will side with China. That's my opinion, and I guess I could be proven wrong in that. But we are watching all of these nations build allegiances, do things out in the open, in the United States face that the United States says not to do. We're watching all of these nations, their militaries practice and drill together. Right now, China and Russia are doing naval drills in the Sea of Japan. China has been developing sixth-generation war ships, and that's been getting out there. I'm sure it's not leaked. I'm sure they're purposely leaking it. And the information that's coming out is these things are quite, high tech, and maybe even better than stuff that the United States produces. And I know some of you may say that's hard to believe because it's China. Just because it comes from China doesn't necessarily mean it's junk. There's a lot of high quality stuff that comes from China. And even if it's not the very best, remember, like I've said before, history has shown that wars aren't always, won by the person that produces the best quality of stuff. It's won by the person that produces the most. And China certainly can do that. They can outbuild the United States many times over in speed and development. And so we're watching these nations not back down from recent threats by the Trump administration. We've watched these nations become closer and closer together. Every time the news media tries to spin it, or the White House tries to spin it, that the allegiance between these nations aren't as strong as we think, or it's becoming weaker, they just step out there and prove them wrong. And they do something to show, or they say it, that they have a very strong allegiance amongst them. And even though they may not all like each other, I think it's very clear that the enemy of my enemy is my friend when it comes to this. And America is not ready for this battle, not in any way, shape, or form. Remember what I said the other day? During that little 12-day skirmish war thing between Israel and Iran, the weapons, missile systems that we had sent to Israel to defend itself against Iran, in 12 days, we went through about 40% of our supply in 12 days. And those weapon systems to replace, it's going to take many months to replace them. They don't just pop them out, within a few days or weeks. Most all experts agree America is not capable of standing up against a two-front war. And it's quite possible that we're going to see a three-front war. So there's a big battle coming, a big war coming. I don't know when, but I think it's coming. And I think it's very possible that it's sooner than you think, sooner than I think. And so I would suggest very strongly that you pick up the pace, get yourselves ready, stock up, train up, do all the things that you need to do. Because the way things are looking, I think that the world could take a very nasty turn, probably not too far off. I'd say it's very likely this year. If not, maybe next year, but I don't think it's much further than that away. So get ready, get your houses in order, prepare yourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next video.